Let me ask you something honest. When was the last time you looked at your blood pressure numbers and actually understood what they mean for your future? Not just glanced at them, not just nodded when the doctor said a little high, but really understood what is happening inside your body right now. Here's what I see constantly in my work with patients. Most people don't find out their blood pressure is dangerously high until something goes wrong, a dizzy spell that sends them to the floor, a headache that won't quit for 3 days, or they're sitting in an emergency room after a stroke and the doctor says, your blood pressure has probably been this high for 10 years. 10 years of silent damage to the heart, the arteries, the kidneys, and the brain, and they felt completely fine the entire time. That is why we call hypertension the silent killer. No pain, no warning, just quiet, steady destruction until it isn't quiet anymore. If you are watching this, you are making a different choice. Today, I'm going to walk you through 5 doctor-approved, scientifically proven ways to lower your blood pressure naturally without relying solely on medication. By the end of this video, you will know exactly what to do, why it works, and how to start today. Let's get into it. Before the 5 strategies, let me quickly explain why blood pressure becomes such a serious issue after 50, because understanding the why is what actually motivates people to change. Your arteries are supposed to be flexible, like a brand new rubber hose. With each heartbeat, they expand to absorb the pressure wave, then spring back. But as we age, arteries stiffen. The walls become less pliable. When your heart pumps, the stiff walls can't flex, so the pressure has nowhere to go but up. This is why the top number, your systolic pressure, tends to rise most dramatically with age. At the same time, the kidneys become less efficient. The kidneys regulate blood pressure by controlling how much sodium and fluids stay in the body. As they age, they hold on to sodium longer. Sodium pulls water into the bloodstream. More fluid in the system means more pressure on the walls. Add chronic stress, which keeps the stress hormone cortisol elevated for hours at a time, and the picture gets worse. Cortisol tells the kidneys to retain more sodium. It tells the heart to beat harder. It tells the blood vessels to constrict. All of that drives pressure upward. The scary part, none of this hurts. High blood pressure has no symptoms in most people. It works silently in the background for years, damaging arteries, straining the heart, scarring the kidneys, until the damage becomes impossible to ignore. The good news is, your body is remarkably responsive to change. I've had patients in their late 60s and 70s come to me on 3 blood pressure medications, make real lifestyle changes over 6 months, and work with their doctors to eliminate 1 or 2 of those drugs entirely. That is not luck. That is biology working the way it is supposed to when you give it what it needs. Here's what it needs. When most people hear cut back on salt, they stop using the salt shaker and feel like they've solved the problem. 3 months later, their blood pressure hasn't moved and they can't figure out why. Here is the truth. The salt shaker accounts for only about 10% of your daily sodium. The other 70 to 80% is hiding inside processed and packaged foods, most of which don't even taste obviously salty. A single can of chicken noodle soup can contain 890 milligrams of sodium. The recommended daily limit for someone with high blood pressure is 1,500 milligrams total. That 1 can of soup already uses up more than half your budget before you've eaten anything else. 2 slices of commercially made bread, 500 milligrams. A serving of cottage cheese, 350 milligrams. Deli turkey, 400 to 500 milligrams per few slices. These foods feel harmless, but the sodium accumulates fast. So what do you actually do? Become a label reader. When you look at the nutrition facts panel, find the sodium row. For main dish items, target under 600 milligrams per serving. For snacks, under 150. Products labeled low sodium must contain 140 milligrams or less. That label is your friend.
But here is the bigger idea I want you to understand. Blood pressure is not just about how much sodium you eat. It is about the ratio of sodium to potassium in your diet. Potassium is the natural counterbalance to sodium. It helps the kidneys flush sodium out through urine. It helps the blood vessel walls relax. The higher your potassium intake relative to your sodium, the better your blood pressure tends to be. The average American senior eats about 3,400 milligrams of sodium and only 2,000 milligrams of potassium per day. We are tipped entirely the wrong way. The potassium goal is 4,700 milligrams per day. High potassium foods include baked potato with the skin, nearly 1,000 milligrams each, spinach, avocado, white beans, sweet potato, and salmon. These are the foods that help flush the sodium out. Don't just subtract salt, add potassium. That combination, less sodium coming in, more potassium pushing it out, is one of the fastest and most measurable dietary levers you have for blood pressure. Clinical studies show that cutting sodium while increasing potassium can reduce systolic blood pressure by 8 to 11 points in people with hypertension. That is the equivalent of a first-line blood pressure medication from food choices alone. Before you assume this means a gym membership or running, it does not. What I am about to describe is far more accessible than that, and the science behind it is compelling. When you exercise, a molecule called nitric oxide is produced by the cells lining your blood vessel walls. Nitric oxide is a natural vasodilator. It causes arteries to relax and widen. When arteries widen, the heart doesn't have to pump as hard to push blood through them. Pressure drops. Regular exercise also strengthens the heart itself, so it pumps more efficiently. It keeps blood vessels more flexible. It reduces the stress hormones that keep blood pressure elevated throughout the day. And it helps with weight, which is its own direct driver of blood pressure. Every extra 10 pounds raises systolic pressure by approximately 3 to 5 points. The research is consistent. Regular aerobic exercise reduces resting systolic blood pressure by 5 to 8 points on average in most adults, with larger reductions in those who were previously sedentary. The foundation is walking. 30 minutes of brisk walking most days of the week. Brisk means you are breathing noticeably harder than at rest, but can still hold a conversation. If you cannot carve out a 30-minute block, 3 10-minute walks throughout the day give you essentially the same cardiovascular benefit. A 2019 study published in the Journal of the American Heart Association confirmed this finding specifically. 3 short bouts work just as well as 1 long session. Tai Chi is worth highlighting separately because it has been studied specifically for blood pressure in older adults. A systematic review found that regular Tai Chi practice reduced systolic blood pressure by an average of 15 points in hypertensive participants. It also improves balance and reduces fall risk, which matters enormously as we age. Free beginner Tai Chi videos for seniors are widely available on YouTube. Swimming and water aerobics are excellent for anyone with joint pain or arthritis. The water supports the joints while still delivering genuine cardiovascular challenge. Stationary cycling is ideal if balance is a concern. Start wherever you are right now. If 10 minutes around the block is your starting point, that is a perfect starting point. Build gradually over 6 to 8 weeks. Consistency is far more important than intensity, and the effects compound over time as long as you keep moving.
The DASH diet, Dietary Approaches to Stop Hypertension, is the single most evidence-backed nutritional strategy for blood pressure that exists. It was developed through research funded by the National Heart, Lung, and Blood Institute and published in the New England Journal of Medicine. The results were remarkable. Participants who followed DASH reduced their systolic blood pressure by an average of 11 points without changing their sodium intake, their weight, or their exercise habits, just by eating differently. At its core, DASH is built around foods that are naturally rich in 3 blood pressure-friendly minerals: potassium, magnesium, and calcium. Potassium, as we discussed, counteracts sodium and relaxes blood vessel walls. Magnesium helps blood vessels dilate and acts as a natural relaxant for smooth
muscle. Calcium supports healthy blood vessel contraction and plays a role in the hormonal system that regulates blood pressure. Most Americans are deficient in all three of these minerals, and the DASH diet addresses all three simultaneously. Here is what DASH looks like in practice. Fill at least half your plate at every meal with fruits and vegetables. A serving is smaller than most people think. Half a cup of cooked vegetables, 1 cup of raw leafy greens, or 1 medium piece of fruit. A banana at breakfast, a large salad at lunch, and 2 vegetables at dinner gets you most of the way to the goal. Choose whole grains over refined. Oatmeal instead of sugary cereal. Brown rice instead of white. Whole wheat bread instead of white. The fiber in whole grains independently supports lower blood pressure by reducing arterial stiffness and improving gut health. Eat fatty fish at least twice per week. Salmon, mackerel, sardines, and trout are rich in omega-3 fatty acids, which have consistent evidence for modest blood pressure reduction in addition to broader heart protection. Include legumes, beans, lentils, chickpeas regularly. They are exceptional sources of potassium, magnesium, fiber, and protein simultaneously. Have a small handful of unsalted nuts most days. Walnuts, almonds, and pistachios have all been associated with cardiovascular benefit. Limit added sugar, sugary drinks, and processed red meat. These foods promote inflammation and weight gain without offering the nutrients your blood vessels need. Here is a simple sample day. Breakfast, oatmeal with banana, blueberries, and walnuts. Lunch, large spinach salad with grilled salmon, avocado, cherry tomatoes, and olive oil dressing. Dinner, baked chicken with roasted sweet potato and steamed broccoli. Dessert, fresh berries or 2 squares of dark chocolate. That's real satisfying food. The key is making the transition gradually. Start with breakfast. Swap one thing at a time over 4 to 6 weeks. That's how habits actually stick. Stress is the factor most underestimated by patients, and when finally addressed, often the one that makes the most dramatic difference. When your brain perceives a threat and it does not distinguish between a physical danger and an overdue bill or a frightening health diagnosis, it releases adrenaline and cortisol. Adrenaline causes the heart to beat faster and blood vessels to constrict immediately. Cortisol promotes sodium retention in the kidneys and sustains cardiovascular activation for hours afterward. For many people over 50, these stressors are not occasional, they're chronic. Financial pressure, grief, caregiving, health anxiety, these sustained stressors keep the fight-or-flight system activated day after day. Blood pressure does not just spike temporarily, it stays elevated as a new, higher baseline. The fastest and most scientifically validated way to counter this is controlled breathing, specifically activating the vagus nerve through extended exhalation. Here's the technique. Inhale through your nose for 4 counts. Hold gently for 2. Exhale completely through your mouth for 6 to 8 counts. The key is that the exhale is longer than the inhale. This activates the parasympathetic nervous system, the rest and digest branch, which directly slows the heart, dilates blood vessels, and lowers blood pressure. You can feel the effect in minutes. Done consistently for 5 minutes every morning, research shows this practice can reduce resting systolic blood pressure by 3 to 7 points over several weeks. Beyond breathing, meditation for 10 minutes daily has been validated in multiple clinical trials for measurable blood pressure reduction. You don't need a special room or a particular tradition, just 10 minutes of quiet focus. Free guided sessions are available on apps like Insight Timer. Social connection deserves mention. Loneliness is not just an emotional experience, it's a physiological stressor. Studies have linked chronic social isolation to a 29% higher risk of coronary heart disease. Meaningful, regular interaction with friends, family, or community organizations actively reduces the stress load on your cardiovascular system. And limit your news consumption. The news cycle is designed to sustain anxiety and outrage, both of which activate the stress response. Check once a day from a trusted source for a limited time. Your cardiovascular system will notice the difference. Sleep may be the single most underappreciated lever in blood pressure management, and we have done a poor job as a society of taking it seriously. During deep sleep, your blood pressure naturally drops by 10 to 20%, a process called nocturnal dipping. This is not incidental. This is a critical period of cardiovascular repair. The heart rests. The endothelium, the inner lining of blood vessels, regenerates. Stress hormones reach their lowest levels of the day. When sleep is shortened or fragmented, this dipping doesn't occur properly. The heart never gets its nightly recovery. Cortisol stays elevated. Inflammatory markers are higher throughout the following day. Over months and years, chronically poor sleep measurably raises resting blood pressure and dramatically increases cardiovascular risk. Studies show that sleeping fewer than 6 hours per night is associated with significantly higher rates of hypertension than sleeping 7 to 8 hours. One major and underdiagnosed cause of resistant high blood pressure in seniors is obstructive sleep apnea, a condition where the airway collapses repeatedly during sleep, causing breathing to stop for seconds at a time, triggering oxygen drops and stress hormone surges dozens or hundreds of times per night. Warning signs include loud snoring, morning headaches, daytime exhaustion despite adequate time in bed, and blood pressure that is difficult to control despite medication. If any of these apply to you, ask your doctor about a sleep study. Treatment with a CPAP machine has been shown to meaningfully reduce blood pressure in people with sleep apnea. For everyone, keep a consistent sleep and wake time every day, including weekends. Make your bedroom dark, cool, around 65 to 68 degrees, and quiet. Avoid screens for at least an hour before bed, as the blue light suppresses melatonin. Cut off caffeine by noon. Limit evening alcohol, which disrupts sleep architecture in the second half of the night and raises cortisol. 7 to 8 hours of quality sleep is not a luxury. It is a biological necessity for a healthy heart. Two things I must say clearly before we finish. First, if you are taking prescription blood pressure medication, do not stop it on your own, no matter how much your numbers improve. Stopping abruptly can cause a dangerous rebound spike. If lifestyle changes are working, bring your improved home readings to your doctor and work with them to safely reduce your dose under medical supervision. That is a wonderful and achievable goal, but it requires a doctor's guidance. Second, invest in a home blood pressure monitor. A validated upper arm cuff costs $30 to $50 at any pharmacy. Check your pressure at the same time every morning before eating or taking medication. Sit quietly for 5 minutes first. Take 2 readings 1 minute apart and average them. Log the results and bring them to every appointment. Home monitoring keeps you informed, keeps you accountable, and helps you see exactly which changes are working. Let's bring it all together. Way number 1, cut sodium from processed foods. Aim for under 1,500 milligrams per day. Add high potassium foods at every meal. Read labels. Way number 2, walk for 30 minutes most days, even in 3 10-minute sessions. Stay consistent. Give it 8 weeks. Way number 3, follow the DASH approach. Half your plate should be fruits and vegetables at every meal. Choose whole grains, fatty fish, legumes, and nuts. Way number 4, practice slow breathing daily. Exhale longer than you inhale. Meditate 10 minutes a day. Stay socially connected. Protect yourself from chronic stress. Way number 5, get 7 to 8 hours of quality sleep. Keep a consistent schedule. Eliminate screens before bed. Ask your doctor about sleep apnea if you have warning signs. None of this requires perfection. It requires a decision that your heart is worth this effort. Start with one strategy today. Just one. Do it for 2 weeks until it feels natural. Then add the next one. Your body is ready to respond. Give it the chance. If this video helped you, please hit the thumbs up. It takes 1 second and helps us reach more people who need this information. Subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next, and leave a comment below. Which strategy are you starting with? Take care of yourself.
Take care of
Be well.
yourself.
I'll see you in the next video.